White. Lowell is the author of 3 books, Professed and That Demon Life novels, and Long Time Ago Good, a story collection. Winner of the Gival Press Novel Award and a Dobie-Paisano Fellow, White teaches at Texas A&M University.
Thank you, everybody. First, I put a picture. Silhouettes there. People doing that over here. That's always good. Thank you. How many of y'all on Twitter? Okay. 1, 2. You're on Twitter?
I'm sorry?
You're on Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay, get off your phones, tweet right now that you're at this reading. You can take my picture too. Take my picture. Thank you all for being out here, and thank you, Malvern, for doing this. I love this institution, everything you do for the community. I've seen a lot of old friends, and I particularly want to thank Perry Sink for showing up here, who is one of the co-dedicatees of this book for all her long and loyal friendship and kindness. And, of course, the great Dave Oliver is here too, and the great Ken Fun, and the great Pam Booth. Everybody's great. I'm going to read from this, which is my new book, The Messes We Make of Our Lives, which is sort of a collection of stories about people who screw up in their lives somehow in various ways. This book sort of came together. It was I was teaching in Kansas in an advanced fiction class, and I was trying to teach the students how to do revision. And revision's sort of hard to do. Students really kind of hate doing revision. You have to think and think about your writing, which is sort of sometimes uncomfortable. So I took an old story of mine that had been published, one of the first stories that I had published, and I pulled it out and I revised it, used it as a model for revision. And I really changed it around. I went from third person to first person, and I added scenes, and I cut scenes. And I really liked how it turned out. And so I took some other older stories that I had written, and I did similar revisions on them, and I wrote some new stories to go along with them, and then we have a book. This is one of the older stories that was totally changed and transformed. It was published in a journal. I think it was like my second publication. I forget what the original title was now. You can probably look it up on my CV if you want to. But it's one of the ones I changed from third to first person, and really changed the whole focus of it. The current title is After the Unexpected Garage Sale, I Decided to Move to Texas. And the title sort of came, I read an interview with a literary journal editor who said the question was, what kinds of stories do you hate seeing? And the editor said, I hate seeing stories about garage sales. And so I named my story. It got hot sometimes where I lived in, on the edge of the plains, dry and hot, and the wind blowing all the time, and in those days it was good to have air conditioning. Even though it was just a window unit, it was good to have, and I could sit inside our home and be cool with Molly and our dogs. Everything, I thought, was fine. But all of a sudden, I didn't have air conditioning anymore, and I didn't have Molly, and I didn't have the dogs, and I didn't even have electricity, and I was left with nothing to do but sit back in the recliner, drink a cold beer from an ice chest, smoke a cigarette, and think about things. Think about, brood about, ponder about, cogitate about, wonder about, whatever the hell had just happened. And that's when my air conditioner started to move. It made a grinding sound, waggling up and down the window. I looked at it for a moment, then I got up out of the chair and went out on the front steps. My neighbor, a friend I guess, Joe Sullivan, was standing there with his hands on the air conditioner. Oh, hey there, Sullivan said. I thought you left. He didn't look startled or even embarrassed trying to run off my air conditioner. The lease here at my house, I said, was canceled. It was hard to explain. I said aloud, I'm still here. I sort of looked at my hand for a beer, then realized I'd left the beer and the cigarette too was sitting on the table next to the chair. Tell you what, Sullivan said. He was leaning on the air conditioner, squinting in the sunlight, crinkling his eyes at me. I'll give you $25 for this. What? $25 for the air conditioner. I blinked, squinted back at him, squinted past him at the street, the other houses, the hot, pale, late summer sky. Then I squinted back at him some more. Are you crazy? I asked. I just bought that new last May. It's only... I stopped and tried to count. It was September, but I couldn't remember offhand how many months that was for May. 5, 6, 4. It seemed like forever. I said, it's only a month old. A summer old. Well, it's not running, Sullivan said. It's busted. That's because my electric's off, I said. Molly didn't pay the electric bill or something. Molly didn't do a lot of things. She did other things. Okay then, Sullivan said, $50. Maybe I'll need new air conditioning at my new place, I said. Forget it. I went back in the house and saw that the cigarette had rolled out of the ashtray somehow, was burning a hole in the filthy carpet, smoldering. I picked it up and poured some beer on the blackened burn spot and settled back into my chair and started staring some more at the wall. That's all I pretty much wanted to do. Then I heard a little tapping noise and looked up and saw Sullivan standing in the doorway. Can I come in? He asked. He came in before I could tell him no. I said, the air conditioner's not for sale. No, he said, I just want to see how you were doing. I shrugged and he walked over and sat on the couch. The couch was in tatters, chewed to pieces by the dogs, and Molly left him locked up in the house for 2 weeks while she was off with her boyfriend smoking crack or whatever it was she was doing. Those poor damn dogs. Locked up like that. No food, no water, just a couch to chew on. I thought Molly loved those dogs. I looked at Sullivan sitting on that poor damn couch all torn apart. It was like it springed him scream in the ass. That's a nice TV, Sullivan said. It's a Sony. The TV's not for sale either, I said. The TV was mounted high enough on the wall that the dogs couldn't get to it. No, I was just thinking it was a nice TV. Sullivan took off his cap and ran his hand over his head, and he put the cap back on. Too bad you don't have electricity. We could watch the Chiefs. Oh, I thought, this must be a Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday, then. I guess I'll have to go to work. Well, shit. I looked over at Sullivan. I mean, he wasn't a bad guy. He was a neighbor. He was sort of a friend. He only wanted a cheap air conditioner. You want a beer, I asked? I gestured at the blue plastic cooler next to the chair. I stopped up. Sure. He got up and pulled a can out of the cooler and settled back on the couch. He had only just sat down and already couch stuffing was sticking to his clothes. You talked to Molly, he asked. Not since she left, I said. Why would I want to talk to her? Crazy. Sullivan shook his head and popped open the can of beer and took a long drink. He said, the beer's cold. Yeah, I bought some ice, I said. Yeah, Sullivan said, I think Molly went kind of crazy while you were gone. I nodded at that. Yeah, I guess she did. Yeah, Sullivan said, I think she went through some sort of manic phase. Sullivan and his wife had dozens and maybe hundreds of self-help books in her house. I was over there once and I stood staring at the shelves of books, shocked, wondering what they were good for. But apparently they were good for something because Sullivan and his wife were still together and Molly and I were, and his wife was sane and Molly wasn't, and he had electricity and I didn't, and my house was all torn to shreds and his wasn't. And also, yeah, Molly, I guess, did go crazy or something. There was a tap at the door when we looked up. The old lady from next door was standing there, Mrs. Morgan. She was a little old lady whose husband was retired from the post office. Hello there, she said. She sounded very cheerful. She was always very cheerful, and she looked at me and smiled. I just came to see how you're doing. Oh, he's doing fine, Sullivan said. He's really hanging in there. I glanced sideways at Sullivan and sat up and pulled another beer from the cooler. You want a beer, I asked her. Oh, no, thank you, she said. She came on into the house and looked around and said, oh, my. I sat back in the chair. Yeah, oh, fucking my. That's pretty much what our landlord had said, too, when he saw the place. I'd only been back a day, not even a day, and I was trying to figure out what the deal was with Molly. She was there when I got back, wild, and she drove away and drove back again wilder. The dogs were jumping around half-starved and crazed, and when the landlord stopped by for an inspection, someone, I guess, had tipped him off about the dogs. He took one look and he said, oh my, and then he told us to get the hell out. Molly said, fine. She threw a few things together and gathered the dogs and got in her car and drove away. I hadn't seen her since. Mrs. Morgan said, I didn't know these things were this bad. She wandered off into the kitchen, stepping carefully to avoid piles of dog poop on the carpet. I looked over at Sullivan and he shrugged. The Chiefs are pretty good this year, he said after a moment. I thought about that for a long minute. Then I looked and I said, yeah. We heard a noise in the kitchen, and Mrs. Morgan came through, pushing the microwave oven on a little cart. Mommy said I could have this, she said. It's something to remember her by. I asked, she wanted you to have the microwave? Oh yeah, Mrs. Morgan. She gave a little grunt. She pushed the cart from the kitchen linoleum up onto the carpet. The little wheels of the cart crushed a dog turd into the carpet, but Mrs. Morgan didn't notice. Jesus, I said, why don't you stick a plant or something? We had lots of plants around the house. They were all looking pretty sickly and battered since whatever had happened to Molly had happened. Why, thank you, Dan, she said cheerfully. She unhooked a big fern from the ceiling by the blank television. She placed it unsteadily on top of the microwave. I got up out of the chair. Listen, I can't let you take the oven, I said. Why not? Molly said I could have it. I thought about that. Have you talked to her lately? Oh, no, but I remember she always said I could have this oven if anything happened to her. Like, she always loved my microwave roasted chicken, and this oven's so much better than mine, and she patted it on the top. And she said if anything happened to her, she'd feel better knowing I had her oven. But every time I roast a chicken, I'll think of her. I don't know for sure anything's happened to Molly, I said. I haven't talked to her. Well, she went crazy, Mrs. Morgan said. Everybody says so. Everybody said so. Well, I have to talk to Molly first, I said. When I do, I'll ask her about the oven. Mrs. Morgan stood there looking disappointed, sticking her lower lip out, pouting. She looked like a wrinkly little girl. You keep the plant, I said. I handed it to her. She looked at it doubtfully. She said, it's kind of sick. Yeah, well, I'm sure you can fix it, I said. I looked around for something else to give her. I spotted a deer skull on the mantel over the fireplace. It had one antler, the left one. It had been bleached white by the sun. I found it while hiking once in Big Bend National Park. I know there's some law against taking artifacts from national parks, but we took it anyway. And I always felt kind of guilty about having it. But now I reached over, took the skull off the mantel and handed it to her. Was passing on my guilt. Molly would want you to have this, I said. Mrs. Morgan looked at the skull closely, holding it by the antler. Well, Donnie might like it, she said. Donnie was her grandson. Yeah, Molly always did like Donnie, I said. I guess, but I didn't know. Who the hell knew what Molly liked or didn't like? I should have. I pulled another beer from the cooler and sank back into my chair. I looked at Sullivan. He was sitting quietly on the ruined couch sipping his beer, and I realized that I had to give him something too now. I'd be damned if I was giving my air conditioner. Not even for $25. Mrs. Morgan stood holding the skull and the fern, looking around the room. It's so odd Mommy Lefton didn't take her thing, she said. I watched her leave. She just threw her bag in the car and put those 3 big dogs in the back and she drove off. Yeah, I said. I hadn't really tried to stop her either. Actually, by that time I was kind of scared of her. I mean, what do you do with this determined, crazy woman? The landlord and I stood on the steps and watched her drive away. Molly drove down the street, made a U-turn, and came back. I thought maybe she'd come to her senses or something, but all she did was get out of the car and take down a hummingbird feeder and that was hanging from a sycamore. The dog sat in the back of the car watching her. I forgot this, she said. Then she got back in the car and drove off, and this time she didn't come back. I went back in the house and shut the door, leaving the landlord on the steps. I'd only gotten home from Atlanta the night before everything happened, and I've been awake pretty much since then, and I was tired, and I was still tired, and Molly was off doing whatever she was doing because she was determined. She didn't take much clothing with her, did she, Mrs. Morgan asked. No, I said. I kind of knew what she was getting at, but I suddenly didn't care. No, she only took a few things. Huh. Mrs. Morgan sat the fern and skull down and wandered off toward the bedroom. Sullivan looked at me. Microwave roasted chicken, he said. How does it get brown and crispy in the microwave? Not far if I know, I said. Yeah, Sullivan said. After a moment, he said, I like my chicken skin crispy. We sat there in the hot, dim room, and I could hear the old lady moving stuff around the bedroom. Have you ever taken a personality test, Sullivan asked. No, I said. I looked at him. I squinted, even though we're inside. A personality test, Sullivan said. He reached over and got another can of beer out of the cooler, and he opened it. They have these tests where they figure out what your personality is. He took a long drink of beer. We use those at work so we can work better as a team. I'm not on a team, I said. Me, Sullivan said, I'm an extrovert. I figured you for an introvert. I don't know about Molly, though. I never could figure her out. But I bet you guys took one of those tests. You can figure out how your personalities fit together. Yeah, I said, but right now I'm not interested in how our personalities fit together. Sullivan said, that's because you're in mourning. You're experiencing deep grief. That's to be expected at this stage. Mrs. Morgan came out of the bedroom with an armload of Molly's clothes, blouses, shorts, a couple of her nice work suits. These all need to be laundered, she said. They all sort of smell like dog. You know, I told Molly I'd look out for clothing if anything happened to her, and she headed for the door. You forgot the skull, I said. I'll be back, she called from the porch. I've got some books you should read, Sullivan said. They're all about relationships. I'm not in a relationship anymore, I said. I stared at the black TV. There was a big spot of light reflected from the open door. Then a spot of light went dim, and there was a knock on the door frame. I looked up, and Alma Garcia was there. She lived next door to old Mrs. Morgan, and her husband worked at the same federal agency I did. She smiled and waved at me through the screen and came on in. I heard you guys are having a yard sale. Not really, I said. Wow, it's really bad in here, isn't it? Oh, you should have seen it before, Sullivan said. Yeah, Dan's been really working getting things cleaned up. I guess he was trying to help me out, make it seem like I was taking control or whatever. Yeah, I heard you left Molly and then she went crazy, Alma said. Billy says he hadn't seen you at work for a while. I said, well, they sent me to Atlanta to work on the task force for 6 weeks. I've been gone. Ah, she said, as if that explained everything. I'm glad Billy doesn't have to travel. I might go crazy like Molly. You want a beer, I asked? Sure. Alma, she got a beer from the cooler. She said, it's awful hot in here. It's electric stuff, Sullivan said. I thought it was kind of weird you guys didn't have the game on. Alma said, Billy's at home watching the game. She wandered off into the bedroom. Sullivan looked at me. You want to go over to Billy's house? We can take the beer. I'm not in the mood, I said. Sullivan nodded. I understand. 3 middle-aged women came up the steps and into the house without knocking. They stood frowning at me as Sullivan in the living room. Is this for sale? The tallest woman asked. No, I said. I saw someone leaving with stuff, she said. We thought there's supposed to be a sale here. They have some nice things, another woman said, but I wouldn't want that carpet, though. They looked at the sofa too. They shook their heads. Then they went into the kitchen. I'm getting tired of this, I said. I got out of the recliner and went out on the steps and sat down. It was a little cooler outside, actually, but brighter. I had some sunglasses somewhere that I didn't remember where. In the car, maybe, probably. Sullivan came out a moment later, carrying the cooler. He placed it on the grass in front of me and pulled out a couple of beers. He handed one to me, then he closed the lid and sat down. You have to think of this as a new beginning, Sullivan said. This is the time for you to grow as a person. You're starting over. A neighbor kid, he was from down the street, I think, I couldn't remember his name, he was just some kid, came around the side of the house pushing my lawnmower. Hey, I yelled, put that back. The kid looked at me and blinked, wide-eyed and innocent. Mom said I should get this before someone else did. I thought for a moment. Despite the dry summer, the grass was long and needed cutting. Okay, I said, you can have them more if you cut the grass first. Yeah, Sullivan said, that's the idea. You got to teach kids values. The kid frowned at me, then shrugged, began pulling at the starter cord. The engine caught. The kid began pushing it quickly across the yard. 2 more cars pulled up in front of the house, and several women got out. They crossed the lawn and walked past me up the steps and into the house. Alma Garcia came out of the house carrying a big bunch of things, some of Molly's clothes, one of my suits, a clock radio, and my shotgun. How much for all this, she asked. The shotgun's not for sale, I said. The gun was in its vinyl case, and she was holding the case by the handle. I took it from her and handed it to Sullivan. Here, you can have this. Really? He asked. How come he gets the shotgun? Alma asked. He's been helping me. Alma saw the justice in that. Well, how much for everything else? I shrugged. $10. Oh, come on, she said. I have to wash everything. How about 8? I shrugged again. Whatever. Alma slung my suit over her shoulder, struggling with all of Molly's clothes, and pulled some money from her jeans pocket. She was off balance, and I couldn't see what she had in her hand. She said, here. I took the money and counted it. That's 9, I said. I reached up and stuck the extra $1 back in her hand. Thanks, she said. She darted down the steps. I'll be back, she said. Sullivan pulled the shotgun out of the case and looked it over. It's not that valuable a gun, I said. I just saw it at a pawn shop one day, and I bought it kind of on impulse. It shoots good, though. Sullivan placed the shotgun across his knees. I really appreciate this, he said. He reached over and touched me on the arm. You know, I think you're going to come through this just fine. I shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. The kid pushed the lawnmower by us and sprayed the 2 of us grass clippings. I covered my beard to keep the grass out of it. I said, you know, Molly could at least fed the dogs or boarded them when she left. Yeah, I know, Sullivan said. And she could have paid the electric bill. Sullivan said, yep. Molly. A woman I'd never seen before came out of the house carrying a big rattling box. How much, she asked. I said, let me see. She sat the box on the porch next to me, and I looked over into it. Kitchen stuff mostly, toaster, blender, coffee pot, a few plates and cups. But the deer skull was sitting on top. The deer skull spoke for her, I said. $10 for everything else. Spoke for her? I took the skull and set it aside. I was going to do that to my little boy, the lady said. He likes stuff like that. The woman opened her billfold and pulled out a 10. You know, you could make this a lot easier for everyone if you just had everything tagged. Yeah, in my shirt pocket. Have a nice day, the woman said. She went down the steps and across the lawn, carrying her box. Sullivan stood up and leaned the shotgun against the house. He pulled 2 more beers from the cooler and closed the lid and sat back down. He handed me one of the beers. I hadn't even yet opened the last one, I finished the one before that. Thanks, I said. I looked away from him, watching the woman carrying the box down the street. A car was pulling up in front of my house with a couple more people in it, and I figured, what the hell? Well, I said, and I stopped. The kid at the lawnmower made another pass by us, gave us another shower of dirt and dry grass. The women in the car were getting out, and one of them was looking at me. Well, I said to Sullivan, what the hell, you might as well take the air conditioner too. Yeah. Does anybody have questions or anything? It's always, here you are.
Does anyone have questions for either of our authors? We have their books on that back table, and should they be happy to sign them for you. We also have snacks. Please stick around.